Got it. All right. So this is the second lesson of ancient Sumerian art. And today we're going to focus on just on sketch, right? A sketch here that it means the drawing that we finish with the pencil or pencil, to be more precise, charcoal. Either charcoal pencil. Let me show you what is the charcoal pencil. You see, this is the charcoal pencil, or the drawing that finished with the vine charcoal. This is the vine charcoal. All right, we can use this to do a sketch. Okay. Uh, let's go back to the another screen. Okay, good. All right, so in sketch, the concept of value is essential in sketch. And what is value? Value means the degree of darkness, like we learned in previous lessons, like 10%, 20%, 50%, a certain percentage of darkness. First, we must know 5 values that we use to finish almost all the sketches. I will show you how to draw 5 value chart. All right, so take out your pencil and sketchbook and follow.
And I want to tell something. Maybe if 16% or more, it's more darker, and if it's 15% and minute,
yeah, we're gonna find out.
Or light, or
yes,
white.
we're gonna find out. All right. Yeah, so your sketchbook also, and just to follow me step by step. I'm gonna show you how to do first how to do a value chart. All right, so this is my paper, and this is my 2B pencil. All right, so let's draw a quick vertical rectangle first. Okay. This is a vertical rectangle, and we divide it into 5 equal parts. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's a little bit big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, this is a good one. Divide this vertical rectangle into 5 equal sections. All right. And those 5 sections are gonna represent respectively 5 values, which is the first one. This is the lightest. The second one, light. The third one, mid tone. This one, dark. And darkest. Those 5 values are also known as, like this one, lightest. It is also known as white. The second one, half tone. The third one, tone. Last 2, this is a core shadow, and this is the drop shadow. So it goes either way. If you prefer lightest, light, mid-tone, dark, and darkest, then you can choose this side. Donald. let me see. Donald, since we are gonna do a lot of exercises this class, so I don't have enough time to explain every detail. Just use your 2B pencil to follow the step by step to follow me, okay? First of all, you draw a vertical big triangle, rectangle, and divide this rectangle into 5 different sections, okay? 5 equal sections. I'm gonna continue and you see, let's begin with the darkest. All right, this is the darkest. It's a little bit tilted, right? My camera. Okay, so this part is the darkest. Darkest. Just use your pencil. Make this part as dark as possible. Okay, just totally dark. Because this is the darkest part. Just make it as dark as possible. And then continue. Use your pencil strokes. Now I'm gonna work on the dark part, but this dark value is slightly less darker than the darkest one. As you can see, it is dark, but compared with the darkest, it is not that dark, okay? All right, the mid-tone. Mid-tone means it is lighter than the dark part. So let's do it and make it lighter. This time, just make those strokes lighter strokes. You don't need to be very clean at the edge because this is merely to show you what 5 values are. Okay, so the last one, the light one, it is even lighter than the mid-tone. Okay, Donald, just follow ce que je fais. Okay, you see, so this light part, it is just a little bit dark, but compared with the mid-tone, it's much lighter. Okay, so as you can see, let's continue until in the end we get to the lightest value. Okay, the lightest value, we don't put anything, it's blank. It's 0%. All right, so this is called 5 value chart. Okay, remember the gap of 2 neighboring values should be even, which means, for instance, the gap between those two, the gap between those two, the gap between those two and those two. You see, the gap between 2 neighboring values should be even. This means the degree of decreasing or increasing value must be equal. For instance, in this chart, as we can tell, the lightest is 0% of darkness, right? Because we didn't put anything. And the light, it's at 25% of darkness. It increased 25 points. And for the mid-tone, it's 50%. Still, it increased 25 points. This dark value, it is 75%. And the darkest, as we can see, c'est 100%. So, as we can tell, the difference between each neighboring two values, the gap is 25%. You see, this is 25% more, 25% more, 25% more, and 25% more. Okay.
Like a regularity, but it's like a regularity because 25 plus 25 becomes 15, 15 plus 25 equals 75, and 75 plus 25 equals 100. It's like easy.
Yes.
Because we already learned that before.
Yeah, because this whole four sections, for equal sections, then every section we get 25%. All right, so this is 25% times 1, 25 times 2, times 3, times 4. So this is the value chart. All right, as you can see, the degree increase is 25 for each. So those 5 values are used to draw a proper real object. Because the reason why we learn this is that for us to draw something real, some object. All right.
To learn the degrees.
Now, yeah. Anything to say?
You know, degrees are important in drawing because sometimes when you draw something, you want to do it real, you have just to make it more dark and more lighter, and to be more easier for you to know how much percent you want and how you want it to be.
Yes, what you're saying is that actually we have to put those 5 values onto the object, to the position, to the correct position. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna draw a real object, a sphere, and you're gonna follow me step by step. All right, so this is the sphere. First of all, I will draw a circle. Okay, this is a sphere. And suppose that the light source is here. The light comes from here. So the sphere casts shadow in the opposite direction. Okay, so first of all, this is a sphere, and here I will draw a line like that. This line is known also a dividing line. All right. This dividing line separates the object, the sphere, into 2 parts. One part is comparatively lighter because it is facing to the source of the light, and the other part is comparatively darker because it's on the opposite side of the source. Remember, il vaut mieux laisser les traces suivre la direction de la forme. For instance, on this side, you see, on this side, the shape is in this direction. So we don't use perpendicular lines. We don't use lines like that, okay? We use the lines that follows the shape, the direction of the shape. All right? So we use perpendicular lines like that. But as I said, every rule is meant to be broken. So when you're skillful enough, then you can forget about everything I teach you. You can come up with your own rules, but pour le moment, juste suivre les réglementations. Okay, so as I said, this is the lighter part, and this is the darker part. So let's cover it with dark value, like that. Remember the stroke, the direction of the strokes, okay? We don't use perpendicular lines like that, never. So this is we continue to render this darker part with dark value. It shows the part of the sphere that stays in the shadow. You see this part, it doesn't receive any light. Okay, now we move on to the lighter part. We apply light tone on the part of the shadow sphere that's a facing toward the source of the light. Also, you see all the pencil strokes, they follow the shape. You see, they follow the shape. They go in the direction of the shape. Okay, so as you can see, I'm using some light value. Mark up the lighter part on the other side of the dividing line, okay? Now, the shadow that this sphere casts, it's also the darkest value, all right? So let's make it as hard as possible. You see, as soon as I apply the darkest value, this sphere, it pops up, right, against the background. It looks like real. All right. So if you come back to the value chart, you will find which value goes to which part of the object. But before that, let's just make it, render it, make it a little bit more distinctive. As I said, this is the dividing line. It is also the darkest value. All right. Okay. So let's find out which part goes to which part of the value chart goes to which part of the object. So apparently the lightest, it goes to here, because at this point the light hits directly this point, and the light part, it goes to here, and the mid-tone goes to here, and the darkest, as I said, darkest goes to the line that separates the light part from the dark part, and also the shadow. And the dark part, it goes to the reflection, okay? Goes to this part. All right. Sometimes this part that covers what the light tone, we also call it gray area. Gray area, normally gray area, it is surrounding around this point. Okay, this point, we also call it highlight. if you cover the whole lighter part of the sphere with the light part, now it's time for you to use eraser. As I said, eraser here in Sketch, it's a tool to create, not only to erase the lines, the strokes that go wrong. You can use eraser to erase this part and make this part blank, 0%. And we call it highlight, all right? Now, let's put the finishing touch. And what is the finishing touch? Make transition from one value to the next as smooth as possible. For instance, this is a, you know, the line is too stark. So let's make this mid-tone part a little bit darker. The separation is getting blur. So it is more, the transition is smooth. You see, this is the highlight, lightest, 0%. And around the highlight, this area is light, which has 25% of the darkness. And then it gets darker and darker and darker until in the end, it becomes 50%. So this is a mid-tone. And as for this line, the darkest, it's okay, I think. It's dark enough. And then it continues. You see, sometimes we call this part reflection also, but I'm gonna go that far. I will teach you next time. So this part stays in the shadow, but sometimes the light hits the surface and it bounces back. So this part, it gets lighted a little bit. So it's less dark than the darkest. Even though it is dark, but it is not that dark, okay? It's a 75% dark. All right, so this is the shadow. Let me make the shadow dark again. Okay, so let's sum up. In Sketch, we have 5 essential values, starting from 0%, it is lightest, and then light, 25%, and it goes on, mid-tone, it's 50%, and it gets dark again, it becomes 75%, and we call it dark, until in the end, it's 100% dark. So this is the darkest. And how to apply those 5 values onto objects, all right? So this is how. The part that the light directly hits is the part of the lightest. This is the 0%. And then it gets 25% the light, and then the mid-tone goes to this area, and the darkest, all right, the darkest, which separates the whole object into 2 parts, one lighter part, one darker part, all right. The shadow that it casts, it's darkest, and then between the shadow and this line, we can call it dividing line. The space in between dividing line and shadow is dark. This is the 75%. Okay, so this is the essential thing of the sketch. Now, let's do one more exercise. This time, let's draw some real real form, okay, 3D form. I'm gonna draw a cube. Let's render a 3D form in 5-value system. So I think I'm gonna use a cube. Remember?
Question.
Yeah.
Why don't we show our sapphire?
You will. You will. But let's finish the exercise first,
Okay.
and then check your sketch. Okay. All right. So this remember, this class is not geometry class, right? This is a art class. So we do everything in art style. So when we draw a cube, we don't draw that cube like that. No. If we draw a cube, we draw it stroke by stroke. This is one line, the other line, the other line, one stroke. This way we create a parallélogramme. Et puis, the ligne verticale also. All right, so this is the way we draw a cube in art class. And that is the way we draw a cube in geometry class. All right, so this is art class. All right, so we can see 3 sides. And this is the source of the light. The light comes from above, comes from here. All right. So with light source hanging over there, we will get a shadow like that. Okay, so now we can apply those 5 values onto the cube. Let's start with the darkest. You see, this is the shadow. And then, like the sphere, on the cube, I'm gonna mark the darkest value, which is also called dividing line or separating line. Okay. Remember, every side, the value is not the same. The value changes. All right. It's darker.
Why is there a bug here? Because I get a freezing one time. And you were like,
What?
you freeze. I don't know why.
Yeah, let's forget about the glitch. Just focus on the.
Yeah, that's right.
If only it doesn't affect us fundamentally, then it's okay. All right. So this is the darkest value. This is the darkest value. So I marked out 3 values: darkest value, dark value. And remember, on each side, the value changes. It is not the same. Like for instance, apparently this area, it receives the light directly, so it is the lightest and light all combined together. And for this part, starts from here. This is the mid-tone, which is slightly darker than this side, top side, but lighter than this side. Remember, the whole side, the value, it must change. And most time, we just mark up the edge. Let it be enhanced. You see this edge? All right, so this is the object. And I think I should enhance a little bit more. The darkest value. And this is the dark value or reflection. And this is the shadow, which is darkest value. All right, so let's find out which value goes to which part of this cube. Okay, so the white, the lightest, it goes here. The light, it goes around the lightest. And also this side, we can call it mid-tone. And the shadow and this part, it is the darkest value. And this part, it is the dark value. All right, so this is how we apply 5 different values onto a real object. All right, so this is something we should know as a beginner about the sketch. And after I check your sketch, what you're supposed to do is to repeat those 2 exercises one more time. Only this time you're gonna do it yourself and by yourself all alone. All right, so let me
I have a question.